DeAndre Hopkins. He's been suspended for the first 6 games of the 2022 season for a PED violation.
Crazy.
So now there's a lot to go along with this situation. I mean, D-Hop was suspended for traces of a banned substance that appeared in a November drug test, which was while he was actually injured last season. He didn't play a single game in November, so it doesn't matter when in November it was. Right. He didn't play any games that whole month.
Right.
He says that he's confused and shocked by this development, but has also elected not to appeal the suspension. And he just captioned his post with, "See you on week 7."
Yep.
I mean, does this add pressure on Hollywood Brown?
I definitely have to say so because, a lot of people I feel like are going to be comparing to, we saw what Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase did, obviously reuniting. God knows what we're going to see with Derek Carr and Devontae Adams with them reuniting. I really think they could be the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the league when it pans out. But now we're talking about, again, another college reunited, situation rather with Kyler Murray, Oklahoma, and Hollywood Brown as well. A lot of people have seen, the 70, 80-yard bombs they were able to rattle off. But let's not also look at the fact that, let's also look at the fact that you are going to have, which I'm a major fan of Kyler. I mean, you know how I feel about him, Fees. One of the smallest quarterbacks in the league, throwing to now one of the smallest receivers in the league. And I understand that Hollywood Brown, 1,000 yards last year, over 100 catches, but he's still only averaging about 10 to 12 yards a catch, which that's not to say that he can't be a good receiver, but I think it's added pressure because there's been, even in the MVP season, Lamar Jackson didn't even throw for 3,500 yards. The guy's never thrown for 3,500 yards in a season in his career, but he still had...
He had 36.
Oh, did he? Excuse me. He had 36. He hasn't had 4,000 in a season yet, which is kind of crazy to me, but it is what it is. It shows the, obviously, type of, aerial attack that can kind of be with Lamar Jackson. And there were some things, is, Lamar great enough to throw to him? We've seen him fall off 2 years after the MVP year, and, Lamar is not a fearless passer, to say the least. So Hollywood was getting a lot of passes there. Mark Andrews was taking targets. They're drafting receivers like crazy. This, that, and the third. But now he's with Arizona, a team that did go 7-0 last year, a team that feels like Cliff Kingsbury has kind of fixed some things, even though they went 4-6 down the stretch. He's still going to have an A.J. Green there. He's going to have a Rondale Moore, who was a great pick for them last year. I think he can just get bought in on and develop even more. Zach Ertz. So there's going to be weapons, really, to where I feel that Arizona's going to be okay. I think they'll be competent enough through the first 6 weeks. You especially got a fresh Kyler, crossing your fingers. He hasn't fell off until about, week 9 to 11 usually. But yes, it is added pressure on Hollywood because obviously upgraded quarterback. And oddly enough, some people don't think that Kyler is good at anything that Lamar does, but show me the tape where that validates, please. I understand that the numbers can pan out the way that they do, and obviously Lamar has an MVP under his belt. But let's look at the comparison of the last 2 seasons. We clearly know that Kyler's a better quarterback when it comes to accuracy, passing the football, and just living in the moment of making the big throw. Not that Lamar can't, but I think Kyler's shown us more. So yeah, definitely added pressure for Marquise Brown. Okay,
and correction, I was wrong about that. 36 was the number of touchdowns he threw. He only had 3,100 yards.
See, not even. Oh yeah. Man, I'm not hating on Lamar. I love him. Dude's gonna get paid $40 million a year, no doubt. But he's not a prolific passer.
But to say that Kyler Murray is a better quarterback is also a bit much because he's not better at the one thing that counts in the NFL, which is winning. He's had the pieces around him. You look at the wide receivers and running backs, he's had better weapons around him than Lamar Jackson, but Lamar has been a better winner. Winner is like that. That's all you're worried about is W's. Then when you look at a quarterback and tell what he's done, you're like, how many games do they win? Are they making the playoffs? How many wins do they have in the playoffs? It's all about wins. And what Kyler doesn't have is the wins, and that's why Lamar has a one-up over him. That's where Jimmy Garoppolo makes his living because he wins games.
Right.
At some point, those stats don't mean nothing because you're not winning. Just like everyone has crowned Justin Herbert, he ain't winning. You got to win.
I don't think we can seriously.
You start to get credit when you put W's on the board.
Of course.
But, I mean, as far as Hollywood Brown is concerned, yes, he actually is. He's going to be under immense pressure coming in there to replace one of the best wide receivers in the entire NFL behind this suspension. Yeah. I mean, he can't wait till week 7 where he can go to being the number 2 guy and be wide open the entire game.
Right.
So, I mean, I think all the pressure in the world is on him and Kyler just because of the nonsense that Kyler pulled, acting as if he was supposed to get this massive Pat Mahomes-looking contract with 0 playoff wins and fading away in the second half of every season. Whether it's the fact that you're injured or whatever you want to call it, what you're not doing is winning.
Yeah.
So now, what does this actually mean for D Hop moving forward?
I mean, he's obviously got to get his head on straight. I think when you look at the fact that, of course, Arizona's fallen off with some health, obviously, with Kyler in the last few years or every year that he's been there, and then missing D Hop on the back half of the season, he's got to come back healthy. He's got to come back ready, because we know with him sitting in the NFC West, everybody around them is getting better. They obviously got other teams that have improved over the year that they're going to see on the schedule. So he's got to come back healthy. He's really got to come back 100%. As hard as, well, it's not going to be hard. He's just obviously serving out a suspension for a PED. Hopefully he's able to stay healthy, not overdoing anything. I think it's just as simple as he's got to come back healthy, because Arizona, if they can float until that week 7, depending on what they are, and ironically the schedule comes out tomorrow after we're talking about this, that's going to play a lot into what D-Hop really has to structure in his plan coming back. But he's got to be ready to go. He's got to be ready to deliver, 1,100 yards potentially in, 10, 11 weeks, realistically.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
11,
they're going to be waiting on it, though.
I mean, I seriously doubt he's going to cash in that many yards missing 6 games.
Yeah.
That's asking way too much. But as far as what that means for D-Hop, I think that really questions a lot of what's happened through his career. I mean, in his statements, he says, in his 10-year NFL career, I've never tested positive for PEDs.
Yeah.
He didn't say I've never taken PEDs. He said I've never tested positive. I mean, I could be reading too deep into it, but I also could be catching what he did not say.
Right.
I mean, you look at, he went down in week 8 against Green Bay, missed the entire month of November with a grade 2 hamstring strain, came back for 2 games in December, went down for the rest of the season with an MCL. But the timeline suggests that he used the PEDs just to speed up his recovery, like a lot of players do when they get caught for it. That's the same thing that Julian Edelman did when he got hurt.
Yep.
He used the PEDs to get back. They caught him. He missed the 4 games, didn't contest it, just like D-Hop did not contest it. But the prior 9 seasons, he only missed 2 games, but he had a long series of minor injuries.
Oh, yeah.
That had just been like, they just didn't keep him out of games. And he's been hurt every year.
Right.
He had a couple of leg calf pulls, hamstring pull 3 times, ankle sprain twice, lower back sprain, a chest and rib sprain, and then the MCL. That's a lot of little nagging injuries.
Especially on the lower half, too.
That could beg the question, has he been taking these all his career and never been caught?
Right.
And this is the first time they seen it? Or was this a one-off?
Yeah.
I mean, you always have to end up circling the wagon to ask, like,
That's tough.
Is this why you've been able to produce like you have been, because you've been taking them the entire time?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not accusing him of doing it, but the question has to be asked.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, when we look at what D-Hop's done throughout his entire career, like you said, being one of the top receivers, if not, the best in some years, whatever we want to say about D-Hop, we know he's great. But yeah, I mean, I hate to think of that fees, because I don't want to believe that a guy that's been, so great and so well respected and really toughed it out through the Brock Osweilers and the, all these other quarterbacks that had come through Houston until Deshaun Watson got there. And then obviously, going over to Arizona. You want to believe that he's been really pure, and you want to believe that he's been able to produce, naturally more than anything. But hey, the best of the best got to do what they got to do, right? I mean, when desperate times come, I guess it's desperate measures. I hope it's not the case, but you present a very good point there, and I would never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, you got to put it out there.
Right.
I mean, y'all let us know what you think, Petty Nation.